So over the course of the first few months of this lawn season, I've been trying out a new piece of equipment. That's the Kalo ProApp. I've been getting lots of comments on Instagram and YouTube about the piece of equipment, asking questions about where they can get it, what does it cost, how do I like it. So I'm going to go ahead and put out a full review on what I think about the Kalo, and I'll talk about some pros and cons to it. So these sprayers have a pretty simple setup. Very similar to the Ortho or the Chameleon or the Chameleon, or some of the more familiar versions that you've probably seen or have used in the past. It has a 32-ounce bottle that connects into the bottom of the sprayer. So for those of us with smaller lawns between 5 and 10,000 square feet, 32 ounce is plenty for you to be able to apply whatever you're using, whether that's a biostimulant or a fertilizer, out into your lawn. You also have the siphon tube. The siphon tube goes up into a venturi system into the bottom of the sprayer. That's what regulates the amount of liquid that's actually going out into the nozzle. In this case, that's a shower head nozzle, which so far I have really liked. And you control that with the dial. This is a volume dial. So however much product you want to come out of the tank or the bowl is going to be judged by how much you turn this. And see, it's got a 1 through 10 on the dial. So depending on what you're using, the thickness of the liquid, the dial is going to regulate how much product comes out. So I've had an opportunity to try this several times. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load it up with everybody's favorite, humic acid. This is 22% humic acid in Enviroplex from BioPro. It's a very thick liquid. I'm going to go ahead and load this up into my sprayer, and I want to use a thick liquid because I want to showcase how well this thing works with thick liquids, and it really doesn't have any issues with clogging. So with that, let's go ahead and throw it down. Alright, so overall that went really well. As you can see, I've only got a tiny little bit of humic acid left in the tank. I ran that on I don't know if you can see this, on a setting 3, and that got me enough time to do the entire backyard. This is about 2,600 square feet. So that was pretty good. We used the thick humic acid. Let's try something a little bit thicker. We'll go with molasses this time and see if it clogs up. All right, so we ran 2 separate products through the ProApp. I did an application of humic acid at 22% humic acid, which is a thick liquid in itself. And then just to up the ante a little bit more, I went ahead and I used the molasses, or the high carbohydrate liquid from Kalo Gel. That's BioMP. Molasses is also very thick and sticky. And so as a normal kind of routine maintenance thing I do is after I use the ProApp, I always run some clean water through it just to clear out any remaining material that might be in the internal system, the Venturi system, just to make sure that it's not clogging up and getting sticky and causing any issues going forward. All right, so we will close this review out with a few final thoughts on the Kalo ProApp. As I mentioned before, the build quality on this, I've been using it for a couple of months now. The build quality on this thing is excellent compared to a lot of the cheaper options that are out there, are almost what I would call disposable units, like the Chameleon and the Ortho. There are some better options that Chameleon makes. There's also the Blue Mule. Then you're getting sort of up into the $80 price range, so you're getting close to the $150 price that the Kalo ProApp is going to run you. So we ran 2 different types of biostimulants through the ProApp. We went ahead and we ran the humic acid, which is a thick product. And then I wanted to try and run it to the test to try and get it to clog. So I ran the molasses through it, and it was able to handle both of those products just fine. I've even used fertilizer products, even a different one through BioPro called Arborplex. It has slow release nitrogen in it and some micronutrients that tends to clog up pumps and sprayers like this, and the Kalo had no problem with it whatsoever. So taking a closer look, as I mentioned before, it does have a 32-ounce container or bowl, whatever you want to call it, that attaches to the siphon. It does have a Venturi system kind of up inside of there. If you don't know what a Venturi system is, it uses the water pressure that comes in from your hose. It causes the pressure to siphon up the product that you have in the bowl and then out of the nozzle. I realize it didn't focus so well before, but you do have the dial on here. It has 1 through 10, depending on the amount of product you want to come out of the bowl. That indicates basically the ounces of product per 1,000 square feet you've got coming out. So when you time it, you know, if I do it between a 2 and a 3, kind of whereas I like to have it on the dial, that gets me about 2 to 3 minutes per 1,000 square feet for the full 32 ounces that's inside of the tank. So if I set this to somewhere between a 1 and a 2, I can generally do my whole 2,500 square foot backyard. If I'm moving pretty quick, I can do the whole thing in about 3 or 4 minutes. So you're moving pretty fast at that point. That said, the shower head gives a really good sort of, the nozzle with the shower setting on it gives you a really good application, really even, especially when you're doing high volumes. Depending on the pressure you get at your hose spigot is really going to determine kind of where you like to use on your settings for the outlets. So you're going to have to mess with it a little bit. Every house is going to be different on the water pressure, so what works good for me may not work as well for somebody else. You may need to bump it up if you've got low pressure. If you've got high pressure, you may need to back it down a little bit. So overall price comparison, the Ortho, the Chameleon, kind of in around the same range, $12, $13. Then you've got the Chameleon, which is around 20 or 30, and then the Blue Mule, which is 80, and then the Kalo, which is $149. Do I think it's worth $149? For me personally, if I want to cry once, buy once, I'm going to go ahead and go with the Kalo. It's going to last me a long time. It's very high quality. I like to buy things that are quality, that are going to last me. I really don't want to waste my time with going and buying something several times. To me, that's sort of a wasted time and effort. So one of the main complaints about those units, about the Chameleon and the Ortho, is that, not the Chameleon, the Chameleon and the Ortho, is that they do clog quite a bit, especially when you're using thick liquids. And that's really what I've been testing this on mostly, is can I get it to clog? And so far it hasn't had any issues with clogging, especially when using the thick liquids and the biostimulants, because that's mainly what I'm using this type of applicator for, is biostimulants. So if you guys have any questions about the Kalo ProApp, where to get it, I'll go ahead and link a description, put a link in the description below on where you can find the Kalo ProApp. If you want to buy one, if you want to do some more research on it, there'll be a link there for you. And if you have any questions, leave some comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.